Hello and welcome to the Dits on Wrestling podcast. I am Dits, your host, and I am joined by my co-host, as always, Anthony. How are you doing, buddy? How's your week been?
It's been good. Had a good week. There was some good wrestling. And then here on the DOWPOD to recap some stuff, talk about some big picture things. You and I engaging in some offline hijinks before this episode started. It took us about like 6, 7 attempts to start this episode because we couldn't stop giggling. So just pretty much par for the course for you and I. So good time. I'm excited. Ready to go.
It's so bad. I think we actually need to start recording it and just release it as an outtakes thing because it would take up a good chunk of time.
Oh, 1,000% we do. The giggles alone is worth like 20 minutes, and then the lead up to it is a good like 30, 45.
And then add another half an hour for the outros.
Oh, 1,000%.
Every week.
In my mind.
So don't kickstart us off again. As we said last week, we won't be covering Fastlane. Fastlane was last night, or whenever you're listening to this, it's before this releases. We're not talking about Fastlane because we're recording this on Saturday, the night before Fastlane, so nothing to do with Fastlane. We might talk about it next week, but because it's such an irrelevant bloody pay-per-view, chances are we're not even going to touch it. And we talked about it last week as well, where it was kind of a non-event on the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But we will be talking about WrestleMania today. We've got... Well, it's your turn for the question of the week. And you say you have a doozy.
I wouldn't say doozy,
Ooh.
but I like it. And I think it's very much on par with the discussion we've had recently over a bloated amount of pay-per-views and things we'd like to see go away.
Intriguing. I'm intrigued. We're going to talk about the WrestleMania build, or kind of lack of.
Kind of lack of.
We're going to talk about the incredible Thunder Rosa Britt Baker match from AEW this week.
Took a page right out of the Nia Jax playbook with that one. Greatness.
AEW always copying WWE.
Always copying the Jax.
Unbelievable. We're going to quickly mention a little bit about the Pinnacle's debut this week, and we're going to do something a little bit different to close the show. We're doing some DOWPOD recommendations. I have mine ready to go, and I'm sure Anthony has something for himself. It could be anything: a match, a wrestler, pay-per-view, whatever it may be, anything wrestling related.
So it can't be like delicious treats, like it can't be like apple crisp or like cinnamon rolls.
Well, you could tie it in some way. You go recommended WrestleMania snacks.
Okay, fair enough.
Which works. It works.
It really does work.
It does work. So shall we get into the question of the week?
Sure.
I'm ready. I'm primed. I'm ready.
I didn't know if you were just going to be like, should we get into the question of the week? And I was going to be like, yeah. And then I didn't know if you were going to go silent and just wait for me to ask it. And I was just going to be quiet and act like I had no idea what was going on. But then you spoke and it blew my spot. So as I mentioned to you offline and then briefly a minute ago, my question of the week is tied to the discussions you and I have had over the last several weeks. Actually, we've had it over multiple episodes of the DOWPOD here in 2021. So my question to you, as we've discussed Fastlane, Elimination Chamber, just so many pay-per-views in the WWE universe, if you could control how many pay-per-views WWE had in a year, how many would you have, and what would they be?
Ooh.
I guess that is kind of a doozy.
That's a good question. So I would keep the main ones. I would keep Rumble. I would keep WrestleMania.
Fastlane. The main one.
Absolutely. Keep WrestleMania. I would keep SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
And I would keep Survivor Series. They would be my 4.
Okay.
Money in the Bank would be part of WrestleMania again, so we don't have to worry about that.
Oh, okay. So it's no longer a pay-per-view.
Any gimmick pay-per-views, gone.
Okay.
And I would probably honestly follow NXT's way of doing pay-per-views, where it's once every 2 months, I think they do them. Well, they're usually tagged on to WWE's bigger shows, like the main roster's bigger shows. And AEW has a good format as well. Like they do special event Dynamite episodes, like this week with St. Paddy's Day's Smash or whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. But the actual pay-per-views themselves, they're like every 2.5 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that works because it gives you so much... I mean, we're going to be talking about it very, very soon. But it gives you so much time to build feuds. If you look at NXT in its heyday, when it was prime, like Finn Balor days, Kevin Owen days.
Yeah. Samoa Joe
as your
Samoa
Joe. Fast forward to Ciampa, Gargano. The amount of build all of the top feuds had in that time because NXT spaced out pay-per-views. It's why you consistently had fantastic takeovers. And we've said it before, the worst a takeover can be is, oh, that wasn't bad. It was okay. That's the bottom level for a takeover. And the reason for that is they space out pay-per-views. They give themselves time to breathe. They give feuds time to breathe. They don't just go, right, Seth Rollins, you're feuding with Shinsuke Nakamura.
Pay-per-view.
Fastlane's next week. Oh, right, you got a match on Fastlane. Go. Like, there's nothing there. Like, and that's an example you can use now because I mean, I didn't know the Fastlane card until we actually were doing pre-roll.
Right. Wild.
But Nakamura is now facing Seth Rollins, or has just faced Seth Rollins at Fastlane with a week's build. I know it's part of the overarching story of Seth and Cesaro, which I'm glad they haven't done at Fastlane.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's a 1.5 week build. Shinsuke shows up backstage. They look at each other. Done. Friday just gone. SmackDown. Shinsuke attacks.
Yep.
There you go. There's your match at Fastlane.
What?
Doesn't happen in NXT.
No.
I might do on the rare occasion, but not often. So I would adopt the NXT formula. I would adopt the AEW formula.
And
I would certainly not have gimmick pay-per-views. Gone.
Interesting. I think I would have 6. Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. As far as gimmick pay-per-views, so the 2 that I would have are... I would have Elimination Chamber.
Really?
Or maybe not the pay-per-view itself, but I would have a summer, like June or July. I guess June if we're doing it every 2 months. I would have Elimination Chamber happen with the winner facing the champion at SummerSlam. I would make that a summery type event. And then the other pay-per-view I would have would be King of the Ring. Because I love tournaments.
Yes,
and I would bring that back. But then I would have to figure out where... Because again, it would be another thing. The winner of the King of the Ring... Like, winner of King of the Ring...
Because that was always traditionally SummerSlam, wasn't it?
I don't even remember when... No, because the King of the...
Because I'm pretty sure when...
I think so, maybe?
The last one that actually mattered, when Brock won, he went to face The Rock at SummerSlam.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if that was just that year or if that was just an ongoing thing.
Oh, interesting. And so I would either have... I think I like the... King of the Ring was usually in June. But I think I would switch that and give that to whatever pay-per-view was headlined by the Elimination Chamber match. And then I would have the winner of King of the Ring, depending on how we spaced everything out. I would have them face the champion at either Royal Rumble or Survivor Series. Maybe even Royal Rumble. So then there's added excitement for both, because then it's like we get to find out who's going to be the champion come Mania, and then at the same time we also get to find out who wins the Rumble. So I think I'd have 6, one every 2 months, basically, and the main 4 again, and then the 2 are headlined by King of the Ring and Elimination Chamber. And again, at King of the Ring, it's all in that one pay-per-view. It's not like we could maybe have some qualifiers in the Raws and SmackDowns leading up to it, but then the
Yeah.
King of the Ring pay-per-view, it can have other matches on it, and it would, but there would be 8 competitors fighting for the key. So that would be the tournament. Like we'd have qualifiers leading up to the King of the Ring pay-per-view, and then on the King of the Ring pay-per-view, we'd have the final 8, and they would wrestle each other all in that night, obviously in the tournament fashion, to decide who is the winner.
I like that. I do like that. I even think that even if it was a month and a half, like 5 weeks, I still think that would work for WWE, but 3 weeks is just not enough to build anything, because you've got to set the foundations first and foremost, then you've got to get to the meat of it, and then you've kind of got to get to the sell just before the pay-per-view, and you can't do that in 3 weeks.
There's no anticipation that's been built.
Exactly.
You're just like, oh, here's this thing, here you go.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, yeah, it's a busy schedule, and it's unnecessary.
Yeah,
Absolutely unnecessary.
especially as we head to Mania season and the build, which we will discuss. It's a larger piece of a overall crumbling pie. And normally I like crumbles in my pie, like a little apple crumble, some peach crumble. I'm a little hungry right now. I could go for some pie. But yeah, well, I'll save that line for when we get into that segment.
I mean, to be fair, we were going to kick off with talk about Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker's match from this week's Dynamite, but to keep things going and keep the segue streak alive that we like to do on this show, we'll dive into the WrestleMania build side of things, because it does very much go hand in hand. And I put out a tweet this week because it only just dawned on me. And when I put that tweet out, we were 3.5 weeks away. I think as of today, of recording day, we are 3 weeks away from WrestleMania.
That's embarrassing.
And don't get me wrong, there is a card. A card has been formed, but there's 4 matches on said card, and the fact
of
bad.
you and I, as we've stated multiple times, and this is kind of a plug, but also just kind of fits in. You and I will be live streaming, a live watch along for one of the nights of WrestleMania. The fact that we still are 3 weeks out and we still don't know which night that is because there is no card is ridiculous. That we're at the point where Mania needs 2 separate nights, okay? Because that's how much stuff there's going to be, whether good or bad. But the fact that they haven't even divulged what that stuff is going to be 3 weeks out, come on.
It's bad.
Bad.
It is really bad. And even if it was just the one night, 4 matches announced at this point is poor. Is very poor.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do over the next... You can kind of already form a bit of the card in your mind from what's been going on. So we are likely going to probably get Big E, Apollo again. Rollins Cesaro is pretty much a shoo-in. Going off this week's SmackDown, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn look to face off, which I am very excited about.
Randy Orton, Fiend.
So there are matches there.
That's an okay one. That's got some build. That's been a long, simmering build. The only disappointing thing is now we get to see Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt in some incarnation for the gajillionth time.
Yeah, but I think if they go the route that they did with Cena last year, because there's a lot of backstory with Randy Orton that the Fiend, the character, can play with. So if it's like a Firefly Funhouse match again, I think that would be a lot of fun. But another match.
But at least that one's had build. Like, this is a long time coming. And see, that's what that in and of itself should be. that should be what WrestleMania is. It should be the culmination of storylines and feuds that have been 2-3 months or more in the making. And I'm not saying every feud has to be that. I don't have a problem with like certain things happening 3 or 2 weeks out and being like, after tonight's events just announced at WrestleMania, we'll have so and so versus so and so. And you're like, okay, cool. But a healthy majority of your card should be, again, I recognize a year is still, January to December, but WrestleMania is really the culmination of your wrestling year. And then once Mania is done, it's almost like that's the brand new start. That's the fresh start for the year. So WrestleMania should be the bookend for your wrestling season. It should be the culmination of storylines and feuds or potential launching points for characters and careers. And in order to have any of that, you need to have sustainability and you need to have people invested in the matches that happen. And in order to have people invested, you need long-term booking and you need that anticipation that's built for you to be like, dude, I can't wait for so-and-so and so-and-so to fight. Or you need to be like, oh, these two have been at each other's throats for like a while. I want to see where this goes. Not just like, even like I'm excited for the Cesaro Seth Rollins match, right? That'll be a cool match. But also at the same time, like that came out of friggin' nowhere. Like they just insulted each other a couple times. It's like, oh, now we got to fight. And that's going to be like one of the main matches. Which, what? Even like Lashley and and McIntyre, that just happened. What?
Yeah, I mean, I was literally just thinking about that. That goes back a little bit because there is. Did I mention this on the pod? I can't remember if I did.
How handsome I am? Yeah, you mention it all the time.
There was when McIntyre first won the title last year, and I think MVP had a VIP lounge. I don't think the Hurt Business was a thing at this point. Or it might have just been starting. But
I think the Hurt Business came after Raw Underground or like right at the same time.
I think it was definitely before.
Right? Like a couple weeks before, because that's what they used to legitimize him.
And MVP said, look, I am going to be part of the reason that or words to that effect, that you're going to lose that title. And then fast forward to Elimination Chamber, they make the deal with The Miz that Bobby Lashley's going to come down, loosen up Drew, despite the fact he's just been in the Chamber match, loosen him up a bit. Miz will come down, cash in, and the deal is Lashley gets a shot at the title. So in that case, there is actually a little bit of long-term booking, but I think it's accidental.
I was saying, have they talked about that though?
That smart. No, exactly.
Then they haven't, so then they probably don't even know that they said that.
So as far as the actual WrestleMania side of things, rather than what I read on Twitter, which is actually pretty cool when you think about it.
Yeah.
But in WWE's eyes, their long-term booking is Bobby Lashley cost Drew McIntyre the title at Elimination Chamber, which was what, 3 weeks ago now?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago from Fastlane.
So that's 2 months build going into Mania.
6 weeks.
Or 6 weeks.
Month and a half. Month and a half.
Drew's been involved with Sheamus for pretty much all of that.
And AJ. A little before
that. Do
you
have a little bit of a thing with AJ?
Yeah, because AJ was like trying to come for the belt and like kind of not, and then they decided to go full tilt with like AJ and almost like in a different direction, and then they went full tilt with like Sheamus and like 6 weeks for the 6 weeks for the WWE Championship, which should be the main belt, even though the Universal title has far surpassed it. 6 weeks for the WWE Champion, who is the champion of the flagship program. 6 weeks. For WrestleMania.
And you're hot potato in this title as well, around WrestleMania season, which is it's just silly. Drew, Miz, Bobby. I don't even think Bobby Lashley's got it. Well, no, he doesn't, because we looked at the card. He doesn't even have a match at Fastlane, which I actually quite like, which I think is what
I like that.
should have been the case with the Universal title as well, but it is what it is.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, I would also rather. Why not just have Lashley face Drew at Mania and then beat Drew at Mania? Because Lashley's going to retain. Like, I don't see him. And if he doesn't retain, again, so Drew lost the belt to Randy and then, like, beat Randy, like, a minute and a half later. And if that same thing happens again with Lashley, like, why even do that then?
Yeah, because especially now, because you've built Lashley up to be this fucking monster of a guy.
Yes.
Who's kicking out at 1 all the time. Like, the match against Sheamus this week, like, he was kicking out at 1 all the time. He's at that point of character build where he's perceived as unstoppable, unbeatable.
The Almighty.
The Almighty. They've gone all in on it. They really have. Like, at the entrance, like, has got a bit more pizzazz. Like, he's protected. I really like what they're doing with him, to be honest. I'm really enjoying the Hurt Business and Bobby Lashley at the moment. But then to go, you know how much I like Drew. You know how much I like Drew.
Yes, I've heard.
I worry, as much as I would love to see it, I do worry that they'll go, Drew didn't get his moment last year, but maybe WWE aren't that nice. But they'll go, Drew didn't get his moment last year because we were in the PC. So we'll have him get the title back.
Dude, I would lose my mind.
But I love Drew McIntyre, but I would not be happy with that outcome.
No,
WWE have booked themselves into a corner where they're going into Mania season. Drew McIntyre should have been champion going in. That didn't happen. You've had The Miz, you've had Bobby Lashley. Whatever. That's the booking you've gone with. Stick with it. You've made your bed, lie in it. And for WWE just to do a U-turn on Bobby Lashley's booking it to this point, since winning that title a little bit before that, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like,
and especially if you want to go with that storyline, I would have rather them had Miz not get the job done versus Drew. Drew keeps the belt. Drew versus Sheamus, if you want to do Fastlane. Drew versus Sheamus at Fastlane for the title. Yes. And then Bobby versus Miz at Fastlane because Miz didn't get the job done like he was supposed to. And then Lashley versus Drew. Like, if we're going to have a Fastlane. Like, because I just don't... Like what you said, they booked themselves into a corner because now if Drew wins, everything you did for Lashley was pointless. And if Lashley wins, why have him win the title from Miz on Raw? Why not just have Lashley beat Drew at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
I don't get it. What?
It's hard to keep up. It really is hard to keep up. But
I don't get it.
As you said, we've got this whole night planned.
Oh, and then I'm sorry, but that's related because the Hurt Business. Why are the New Day tag team champions again?
Yeah.
We just talked about how sweet the Hurt Business was as a stable. And now I really like Kofi. And I like the New Day like as a whole, their characters. But their title reigns have just been so meaningless to me because they have so many.
I think this is number 11.
I don't know what it is, but I could not give a crap. But I know they had the one that lasted for like over a year, and it was really long. But they have so many reigns where it's like, oh, New Day are champs. Oh, they lost it. Oh, they got him back. It's the same thing with Ric Flair. Oh, the 16-time world champion. Cool, that means you lost it 16 times. Give me a CM Punk who held the belt for like 700 days or whatever the hell it was. I'd rather take someone who had like 1 or 2 reigns and he held the belt for like a year or 2 than some guy who had it like, Charlotte Flair. She's had all these title reigns and they last like a day and a half, just like Sasha before that. And why? The Hurt Business was sweet. We talked about it last week. And now they lose the belts to the New Day? Why? So New Day can have another meaningless title run? Like, because they're so over. Like, they don't need it. Why? I just have so many questions. I just don't.
They do it to set up AJ and Omos at WrestleMania for the tag championships.
But why can't they do that
why...
against the Hurt Business?
Is
it because AJ and Omos are going to win? And if that's the case, that's stupid as hell. So the tag team champions just won the belts, and then 3 weeks later they lose the belts because the tag team titles they are meaningless. But just way to just devalue. And even that, like, is that those are belts. They should be important. And like the point is to get them off the Hurt Business, so that way you can have like New Day versus AJ and like what? Why not just the build? So the build for the tag team title match is like a 3-week build for a belt, for a major belt.
Yeah.
Like at least the Intercontinental title has had like a good 5 weeks, week after week.
It's been very good.
Yep, Apollo's killing it on the mic. Big E gets to do stuff on commentary. Apollo had a really good talking smack bit this past week, and then Heyman burned Kayla. You saw that?
I saw that. I didn't see anything of the Apollo stuff. I saw the Kayla burn.
What led to the Kayla burn was Apollo kept telling Kayla to address him as the future Intercontinental Champion. And she was like,
that's right, because she was like, the potential.
Yeah, and he was like, no, say future. And she was like, I can't, do... And then Heyman was like, yeah, we got rid of the wrong, interview girl or whatever he said. That was a good burn. And then Kayla was just like, ow. And, put her head down. That was good. But at least that's had, and that's been... I'm okay with that being, a 5 or 6 week build because it's been week after week. They keep getting at each other. But then at the same time... If they're going to fight at Mania, why are they fighting at Fastlane?
Yeah.
For what? That completely waters it down. And if they're just going to fight at Fastlane and not fight at WrestleMania, I think that's a waste. And also, who the hell is going to fight for the Intercontinental title? Because then it's going to get a 3-week build. There's just so many avenues. And we sit here and we say this as wrestling fans. And I'm sure there's so many others who have critiques and thoughts of how to do things better and different and all these things. Everybody does. It's part of the fun of being a wrestling fan, to sit there and fantasy book or create things like this would have been better, and you get to talk about it. But I genuinely think that you and I could do a better job booking WrestleMania than Vince McMahon and what he has. And maybe there's things that go on there, and not even maybe. There's got to be things behind the scenes that go on that are dictating why these things are the way they are. But there's just so many possibilities that they create, and 98% of them are all negative and bad. And I just don't get why they do it that way. Why it's so hard to get Andrade on TV, to get Aleister Black on TV, to keep Keith Lee the same that he was, to have a couple months of booking for your titles, to have established feuds and rivalries going into WrestleMania. I don't know why it's so hard to do that. And we're going into WrestleMania. Think about it. We're 3 weeks away from WrestleMania. And like you said, we know what? 4 matches?
Yeah.
And technically, 2 of them don't really count because 2 of them are the Rumble matches. Bianca won the Rumble, so she chooses Sasha. Edge won the Rumble, he chooses Reigns. Technically, those shouldn't even count because those matches book themselves.
That's a good point.
So those shouldn't even count. Those are by default. That doesn't count because those are naturally gimmicked matches that happen all the time. Well, every year. So that means we've got 2 matches that have been booked on WrestleMania 3 weeks out. And what's even worse, I just noticed now, this isn't even like WrestleMania of old where it was it's 8 matches or 7 or something like that. You've got 2 nights. So you've got and you've got a pre-show. So you've got what? Between everything, you've got what? 12, 13, 14 matches? And you've only booked 4 total, but really you've only booked 2 because 2 of those 4 wrote themselves? You've got 2 nights of content to fill. 3 weeks out.
You know for a fact that there's going to be some last minute matches thrown in there the week of WrestleMania, even after the Hall of Fame has gone down, even after that, there's going to be matches added to that card. And you're just kind of like, this shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. Ever.
Not ever. Ever. Let alone WrestleMania.
It's poor. It is poor.
Here's a good analogy, because you had a good one last week with the TV characters in season 1 and season 7.
Nice.
Sports. You like sports. I like sports. Many of us like sports. Titles and championships have meaning at the end of the year because of everything it took for you to get there. I'll go with soccer, football as you call it, even though it's inaccurate. Part of what makes winning the Premier League awesome is because you had to go through August through May worth of games, and that doesn't even count the FA Cup and the League Cup and Champions League and all that. Part of what makes it worthwhile to win the Premier League is because you had to face 19 other teams twice over a 38-week stretch that goes from about August of the previous year to May, Mother's Day weekend or whatever, of the current year. That's a long time. And that's why it's so awesome to hoist a trophy at the end, because you went through so much to get to it. Think of how less exciting it would be to win the Premier League if the Premier League started in March and it was over by the middle of March. You'd be like, oh, well, so the season was 2 weeks long? Okay, well, I guess that's we still won, I guess, but it doesn't have the same impact at all. And that's
like the FIFA Club World Cup that they do, or World Champ, or whatever it is, with the winners of Champions League, Europa, and random leagues around cups around the world. Like, that is just such a pointless thing. It's such a pointless thing. Like, somebody wins that, you're just like,
yeah,
and
if
that's over 2 weeks.
If my team's in it, it's cool to be like, oh yeah, we won another thing. But do I care about that as much as I'm a Barcelona guy? Do I care about that as much as winning Champions League? Not even close. Do I care about that as much as winning La Liga? No. Copa del Rey? No. Same thing for you're a United guy. Would you care about that? Would you rather have that or the Champions League? Would you rather have that or a Premier League championship? Would you rather have that or the FA Cup? And that's such a good analogy. Part of what makes it great to win a championship is everything you had to go through to get to it. Sports are a natural build to a title. WrestleMania should be your final week of the Premier League. It should be your Champions League final. It should be your Super Bowl, your World Series, your Stanley Cup, your NBA Finals, all those things. It should be a build and a culmination. And this year, like so many other years, it's not. It's not even close. And when you have things pay off like that in such a dramatic fashion, I'm going to bring one up, another soccer-related one, and I hate to do it. When City won the Premier League all those years ago on the last day when Aguero scored. But think about that day. I can't even remember all of them. There was so much drama. Like, if United won, which they did, they got the Premier League. If City won, they got the Premier League. If City drew, United got the Premier League. QPR had the potential of being relegated. There were multiple teams in the bottom that if they didn't win, they would get relegated. There was all this drama all happening on the very last day. So many storylines, and they were all tied in together. And you were like, because City faced QPR, and there were all these connections and storylines. That should be WrestleMania. Everybody going into that final day. I didn't give a shit. I don't give a shit about QPR, but I went into that game watching City and QPR being like, oh, dude, like this game has so much storyline potential. And like you're excited for it. Like it heightens everything and it makes everything that much and that's one of like the greatest sports days in history, let alone all the regular years where your championships and your end of your tournaments. That's what WrestleMania should be every single year. And instead, the build for it is just treated like any other pay-per-view. And that's sad because it should not be that way.
Here we are.
Here
we are, 3 weeks out.
Look at us.
And that's exactly what is happening. Yeah, it's sad. It is sad. I am still excited about WrestleMania. Don't get me wrong. I am still excited, regardless of the lack of card and mostly build. I am still excited about it. I don't know if it's more because we have something planned around it.
That's why I'm excited. I'm very excited to do the watch along and to do
But
it with you. That's gonna be awesome.
yeah, we'll plug it a little bit towards the end because there's additional things that we've added since last week. But I want to move on to something more positive for the next 25 minutes or so. I'm going to stick with AEW for this. A lot of good stuff happened on AEW this week, but there's two things that stood out, and I'm going to kind of give the women the main event here of our AEW little turn here. So I'm going to go straight to the Pinnacle.
Okay.
What as our expert air quotes AEW in-house
correspondent,
journalist. What are your thoughts on the Pinnacle promo this week?
Really good. MJF was intense. The verbiage was good. I loved the nicknames he gave for each person. If you didn't know who everybody in that group was already, MJF got all of them over. He got Tully over. He got Wardlow over. He got FTR over. He got Shawn Spears over. They had a great look. The message was good. The timing, the cadence, the passion, just everything was. MJF is a terrific promo. And the look of everyone was just great. And how it came together and how MJF sold it and the story he told and how Tully introduced it and brought it together. It really hit. And I think this group has the potential to do a lot going forward. There's so many storylines that can be built into this grouping and this team, and just so much in-ring and storyline potential. I'm really happy with it. I thought the promo was good, and it did its job to a T and then some. And if you cared already, this is what it did. If you cared already, it made you care more. And if you didn't care, I think that would have made you care. Which is
awesome. Because I said last week with that whole MJF Inner Circle segment with the War Council, I said I needed a moment with AEW that made me go, that's it. That's me sticking with it. And that was it for me last week.
Yeah.
And this kind of rubber stamped it for me. And it's like you said as well, I don't give a rat's ass about Shawn Spears. Didn't really give a rat's ass about Ty Dillinger in WWE. He was good. He was good, but I didn't care. I didn't gravitate. Shawn Spears coming in to AEW, the chairman, don't really care. MJF in a minute sold Shawn Spears, because that was always the thing. I was like, when the Pinnacle was this thing, and last week they were all stud together, I was like, well, the odd one out is Shawn Spears. Out of everybody here, you've got FTR, arguably the best tag team on the planet right now. You've got Tully, absolute legend. You got MJF, one of the best promos on the planet. 24, so much potential. You've got Wardlow, who is going to be a star in the next year or two. He's going to be the next great big guy. And then you got Shawn Spears. And you're like,
one of these is not like the others.
Yeah. But after last week and then this week, I'm sold on every single member. As you said, he put every single person over. Even Tully's promo to kick things off was awesome. He was like I started my career, I was with a group of the best wrestlers of all time. I'm going to end my career with the best wrestlers on the planet. It was...
And that's such a huge... that's a massive... Because the Four Horsemen are, the coolest or best, group or stable of, all time. And so for Tully to lead with that and then say that, that's just such a powerful statement. And then, and then he passes the mic off to MJF, who just... That's such a great way to put it. Shawn Spears, you're like, okay, Shawn Spears? And then now I'm like, oh, no, you mean the chairman? It just... He sold each one of them and made you care. And the story and the meaning, and again, especially with what it's going to lead to, like you know that feud with the Inner Circle is going to be worth it, and it's going to be great. And
Yeah.
it just made me like, oh man, I was just sitting there watching it, being like, oh man, I can't wait for the Inner Circle to answer this. I can't wait till next week when we get to see what the Inner Circle have to say about this, which is what it should do. And yeah, I love stables, and I'm very interested to see where this goes, especially as a whole, because I've wondered what MJF's arc would look like in AEW, especially like that first year or 2 years. Like I wondered, like when would they put a belt on him? Who does he feud with? I'm interested to see where this goes for him out of everyone, because he has to take the belt off a good guy, which means he won't be the one to take it off Kenny, but I would think that he'd be the one to take it off of whoever beats Kenny.
Yeah.
Which would be a big thing, especially if they slow burn this, which they will. Yeah, this group has a lot of potential in a multitude of ways. You could very realistically see FTR as tag champs, MJF as the AEW champion, and then you've got like Shawn Spears as the TNT champ.
Easy.
You could realistically see that, and that would be pretty awesome.
I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. And we love factions. We love stables.
Yes, we do. Yes.
And now we have another one added into the mix, which is already incredible, because it's been built up over a number of weeks, or to be fair, as MGF put it, it's been built up over months and months and months.
Yeah.
And I guess when you kind of really look at it, you can see it. Just little bits here and there coming into it, and then obviously the big payoff last week.
And I love how they played us with it, because from the beginning, everybody was like, oh, well, he's trying to take over the Inner Circle, and it's either going to happen or it's not. But instead, they like swerved us further, and it was like, oh, actually, no, I was just doing that to distract everybody from the fact that I was putting my own group together, and none of you had any idea. And I was just sitting there being like, oh, he's right. I didn't have any idea. I didn't think this was a thing at all. So well done. That's good booking. Good. That's good writing. Like, we couldn't see it. Like, I will still not just like, not that it was like an amazing moment. I mean, it was still pretty cool, but not that it was like this greatest moment ever, but I'll never forget MJF like cowering in the corner being like, I wasn't trying to take over like the Inner Circle, Chris. I wasn't trying to do that. And you're thinking like, oh, he's just groveling like a little jerk. And then his face just goes from like fear to like, because I was too busy building my own. And then the lights went, oh, damn. Yeah, I'll never forget that. I was just like, oh, crap, what? And then the lights go on and you're just like, and that's it, like maintaining that momentum, because the lights go out and then you're like, who is it? Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be when the lights come back on? Who's going to be there? Who's going to be there? And then you see who's there and you're like, oh, like that's immediate payoff. But then how do you continue to sustain that the next week? And I think they not only sustained it, I think they pushed the envelope even further, which, again, tremendous.
In the space of 2 weeks. In the space of 2 weeks, you've already established one of the strongest stables in wrestling now.
Chef's kiss.
In 2 weeks. Chef's kiss.
I've never heard anyone say that before. I came up with that on my own. No one's ever said chef's kiss.
Never.
Especially you.
I never say it.
No, you've never even heard of it. You don't even know what a chef is.
Hello, children.
Who's kid? Oh, hey, chef.
Hey, chef. And we're going to keep that positivity train rolling with AEW as well. The talked about match this week, and rightfully so.
Oh boy.
The lights out match between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. Wow. Wow. I was in work on Thursday, and I was just going through Twitter, and
so you hadn't seen it yet.
I hadn't seen it. I didn't see this match until yesterday. Oh no, today. Today was the first time I saw it this morning.
Oh boy. Okay.
But I saw the pictures, so I didn't know anything of like how Britt was busted open, how Rosa was busted open. None of that. I just saw that amazing still of Britt Baker looking into the camera with a smile on her face.
And all the blood. Oh my god, iconic.
And I was like, oh my god, and everyone was like raving about it. As is always the case, people putting a negative spin on it, just going, oh, well, look at AEW doing this, or WWE aren't doing that to their women, like, fuck off. Like, just accept that there's just been an incredible match, regardless of gender. It's been an incredible match,
And the
that's what
blood
we got.
and the blood fit for it because they hate each other. Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker hate each other. So it makes sense. It wasn't blood for the sake of blood. It fit in the storyline. They hate each other.
Yeah. Which again, we feed into long-term booking. They've been feuding now for what? At least 2 months? Well, even longer than that, because who was the one that did oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of the AEW Women's Champ. What's the name?
Shida.
Shida. In my head, I was just like, oh, Thunder Rosa was the one that broke Britt's jaw, but it wasn't. But either way, we've had a decent amount of build between the two of them.
Yeah, they've feuded. They've gone back and forth, which is the whole reason. Like, this wasn't just the lights out match. Wasn't just like, yeah, we'll put this. It's because they hate each other.
Yeah.
And it started out that way from
tell.
the get-go when Britt ran through and speared her through the ropes. That's how the match started. That's how I knew this match was going to be sweet, because Britt Baker dove through the ropes to spear Thunder Rosa on the ramp. That's how the match started.
And then hit the... Well, I call it the white noise, because I actually don't know the proper name for it. I just call it what Sheamus does it. The white noise up on the little entranceway as well.
Real good. Oh, I forgot that she went with it. Real good. And she did it right away, and then she went for the pin.
Yeah.
Like, just... Oh, man, what a good match.
Like, it's not a perception because it's the women. It's just you don't really see it that often with the women's division matches like this, and it's just they've finally been given this chance in AEW. Like, how long have people been going, like, when are you going to start taking this division seriously? When are you actually going to start doing something with it? And in the last month and a half, we've had that tournament for the for a chance to face Shida for the AEW Women's Championship, which was great. And then this week we finally have the women main event, an AEW show for the very first time, and you sell that moment with this and go, this is what we had all along. Should it have happened earlier? Absolutely should have happened earlier. Regardless of whether this is a main event match or not, something this level, and I'm gonna throw the women's side of things out, regardless of gender, like throwing this out there, like it should have happened so much sooner. But to have that out there in the world now for everybody to see, they've proven that they have this division now. Move forward with it. Don't let off the brakes. Don't go, right, we've given you that main event, we'll back off a little bit. Don't do that. Just keep fucking going with it. Because WWE did that when you had this whole give divas a chance, and then we had Becky in the spotlight, we had Sasha in the spotlight, Charlotte is always in the spotlight. We had Bayley
Charlotte is the spotlight.
Charlotte is the spotlight. But they were a big deal. They were main eventing stuff all of the time. But as to be fair, they're still kind of doing that now, but to a lesser extent. And I hope AEW follow that and just keep that momentum going, because I could tell you now, there's so much momentum coming out of this. If there's anything people are talking about coming out of this week in wrestling, that is it.
Oh, for sure.
That is it. You know, and the comparisons to the Becky Lynch thing where Nia tried to kill her, and then Austin's Crimson Mask and all that, like, it's such an iconic... That is going to be an iconic image going forward for many, many, many years. And many years. And it's just... I'm glad they had that chance. Sure. But if you just look at it as a match itself, like, there were so many great spots. The thumbtacks.
She went hard into those tacks.
Oh,
She took a real bump onto those tacks.
It does make me wonder, like, I know it must be painful landing on tacks, but you got that adrenaline pumping in the match, so you can probably say the pain is reduced by half
Mm-hmm.
in your head. But then when you go backstage and
Oh,
you
God.
saw how many tacks are sticking out the
Gotta
back
take them out.
of Britt Baker, you got to take them out, which is actually probably more painful. Ow! Like, who does that? You got like the trainers just like,
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. They
one.
take them out with tweezers. It damn, like just that. You hit on part of it, and I want to say this before I forgot the thought. Like now, the challenge is how do you sustain this going forward? Because now all eyes are on your women's division, and the talk is around your women's division. And you compared it to the Austin and the Becky Lynch thing. Neither of those moments were planned. Well, Austin's blood was planned by only him and Brett. Vince didn't know about it. Becky's wasn't planned at all. The only reason it happened is because Nia Jax doesn't know how to do wrestling. But Britt's was planned. Granted, she cut herself a little too deep. But now you've got all these eyes on it. And I'm really happy for Britt Baker because when she came on, when AEW was announced and they did the whole press conference thing, she was like the flag bearer for the women's division. And she was not ready. They had her as this baby face. She wasn't good enough for it, and she wasn't good enough in the ring. And you combine that with her being Adam Cole's girlfriend, and Adam Cole is fantastic. And so everybody just really got on her about not being good enough. And then we saw the role model character come through, and she really got comfortable and strong on the mic. But her in-ring performance has gotten better and better with each week, each month, each match, all that stuff. And this match against Rosa, you again hit it on the head. The blood was awesome. The thumbtacks were awesome. But forget that. The wrestling part was good. Like Britt Baker had a good match. And that's what I want to focus on. Like no disrespect to Thunder Rosa, but Thunder Rosa is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. That's why when she started doing AEW matches and within AEW, I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. They just got like an A+ talent on the women's roster. Thunder Rosa is fantastic. And Britt held her own with her, and it's just such a great journey to see her raise her game to that level. And also the fact of how far she was willing to go, the fact that she was willing to get busted open, the fact that she was willing to go on the tacks, the fact that she was willing to get put to go through the tables. That's also part of it. Like AEW knew damn well, like even if the match sucked, if you would have seen the blood and the thumbtacks, you would have respected Britt Baker at least a little bit, regardless of what happened. And they knew that would play into it. But on top of that, it was just a really good quality match. And she took some really impressive bumps and did some really impressive stuff with one of the best women's wrestlers on the planet in Rosa. And it's just so awesome to see. And the way she played it up, just knowing where the camera was and smiling into it while the blood was coming down her face. Like, she played it up beautifully. And it told a great story. It was another great chapter in this feud. I was not expecting that. Like, I didn't know. I was like, oh, cool, it's a main event. And yeah, they just delivered in so many ways. And the match could have been bad. And I think the tacks and blood and stuff would have elevated a little bit, but it also could have hurt it because people would have been like, well, the match sucked. And then she bled for no reason. And they tried to be like horny with the thumbtacks, like whatever. But no, it was damn. And Britt took all those spots. She got busted open really bad. Granted, Thunder Rosa got busted open too, but Britt's was way worse because she cut herself too deep. Britt went into the tacks. Britt got put through the table at the end and took the loss. And it was so good. And my favorite part...
That was a good finish as well.
Oh, tremendous finish. My favorite part of the match wasn't even a planned part. The camera was focusing on Britt. And it was after Britt got put into the tacks. Mind you, and then she goes for the lockjaw in the tacks. So both her and Thunder Rosa are in the tacks. Thunder Rosa gets out of it, and the camera is focused on, like, Britt. But you can see Thunder Rosa in the background. And Thunder Rosa's trying to get up. And this isn't like planned for the camera, but she's trying to get up and she's crawling and she accidentally puts her hand in the tacks and you can see her put her hand on the tacks and go, ow, damn it. And like, shake her hand, and that just made me like burst out laughing because it wasn't like planned at all. It was just like a real moment from a real person being like, son of a bitch, like these stupid texts. Like it would just had so many cool little moments like that in addition to what was planned and what the match actually was. And to your point, it got the world talking. AEW came out with a shirt like a half an hour later, the main event role model shirt with a bloody Britt all over it. And yeah, kudos to her. Like it can't. It's not easy to be in the public eye and get like knocked for stuff, and she got knocked pretty heavily by a lot of people. And what made it even worse again is that she lives in the same house as one of the best wrestlers in the world, and Adam Cole, and that can't be easy to just get like knocked like that over and over. We spoke about it on this pod. Like look how. Granted, they're not the same person, but Lana was so like emotionally distraught because of how so many people just bullied her and bagged on her for not being good. And almost another similar thing, that her partner Rusev is a phenomenal wrestler, and so everybody was like, he's great and you suck, blah blah blah. And Britt Baker got a lot of that, and it's easy to kind of go into a shell, and she didn't. She got better and put on one of the best matches of the year with moments that we will remember forever.
Yeah. Exactly that. Oh,
so good.
Good times.
So good.
And I mean, going off the Pinnacle thing and that, another good week for AEW. Another good week for AEW and Dits' relationship as well.
The stock continues to trend upward for you.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Now, before we leave the show, we could actually wrap up right now and hit the hour mark. We could do that right now. So we're going to keep this short, but in future, when we do a DOWPOD Recommends section, we'll do a bit more in depth and why we're choosing it and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to give you a recommendation for you guys to take away. Whether you look it up or go with what we recommend. That's your choice. But I'm going to kick things off, and it's going to be a match. And people already know, if you follow this show and you've listened to it for a while, you'll already know what my favorite match is. But I'm tying this in with everything that is going on currently in WWE with Shane McMahon. It's terrible. It's bad. The promos have been terrible. We talked about the promo last week, actually, on Raw, where it was all like stuttery. And even Braun, to be fair, Braun did bring it up. He said, "You're that scared of me that you couldn't even get your words out." I liked how they kind of played it off because
Shane forgot his lines, which is the only thing I can think
of. He stuttered again this week. It's just like, Shane, come on, like you can do a good promo, and like 2 weeks in a row you've struggled. He's like, get it out. It's been bad, and the match with Braun, I like the attack, but then you put green slop on him. Like just leave it as Braun going through the table. Done. That's all you need to do. But then the green slop, kind of whatever.
So much.
This is not the Shane McMahon you guys need to be seeing. The kind of Shane McMahon you guys need to be seeing is the one from 2001 King of the Ring street fight, Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle, my favorite match of all time for many reasons. Get on the network, go on Peacock, go on Daily Motion, go on YouTube. They're going to be somewhere in either highlight form or the full thing. Chances are you've already seen some of the iconic shots from the match, whether it be the whole "don't try this at home" and Kurt's like, "Oh, I think I broke my tailbone," or Shane going through the plain glass window, the King of the Ring thing
after like 17 tries.
Yeah, all 3 iterations of that, whether it be him going in or getting thrown back out or the fails. Like, you've seen it all. It's an incredible match. It's so much fun.
And they also did, WWE Network also did like a documentary special on that match. One of those,
did.
What is
I
it?
forget what it's called.
24 or Behind the, I don't know, something like that. But it was really cool with watch the match first and then watch that little documentary piece.
Yeah.
And it just adds so much insight, and especially from Kurt's perspective when he's talking about how he, broke his tailbone. and that's why he can't belly to belly Shane through the glass, because he doesn't have any feeling or power in his lower back to be able to arch his back and get him through. And how Vince is just calling it like, not again, not. Oh man.
Yeah, it's very, very good. And that is my recommendation this week. That's my recommendation.
My recommendation is something I've stated here on this pod multiple times. But now that we're in a recommendation type thing, I want to make it official. My recommendation is the works of Jay White, the Switchblade, the leader of Bullet Club, the best heel in the entire wrestling business, one of the top 5 wrestlers in the world at this moment. His work on the mic, in the ring, promos, his promo from this past Wrestle Kingdom is the best thing in wrestling all year. That includes matches. I'm not talking just promos. He is one of the best in the world to do it. And I know not everybody subscribes to Meltzer and his thoughts and all that stuff, but Meltzer called Jay White's promo from Wrestle Kingdom one of the best he's ever seen, and put it on with like certain Ric Flair promos that are legendary. Jay White is amazing. I've been a fan of his for multiple years, ever since I saw him wrestle Will Ospreay in Ring of Honor back in like 2016, before he was the Switchblade. Just, man, he's tremendous. And that is my recommendation. He has had, his New Japan Cup matches have been good. His match with Ishii in February of this year was phenomenal. The finish was great, let alone the whole match. His matches with Ibushi have been up there. His matches with Okada, his match with Kenny. He's been on this steady climb and steady rise for several years. He's been the best heel in the business for about 2 years, 3 years, in my opinion. And that's over MJF and anyone else that you consider a heel. I think he's also the best promo in the business. I don't think there's anyone better on the mic or anybody better with their words than Jay White, and that includes MJF and anyone else. That includes MJF, Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, the guys who are the best of the best on the mic. John Moxley. I don't think anyone comes close to Jay White. I don't think anybody touches him. He's the best on the mic in the business, best with his words. And now in ring, for the last several years, he's been a top 10 guy. Top 10, top 12. He is now firmly entrenched in the top 5 wrestlers in the world, along with such others as Shingo Takagi, who's also been in that top 5 for the last couple of years. He's phenomenal. Go check him out. Again, whether you have New Japan World, awesome. Whether you look it on YouTube, whether you check Daily Motion, whether you go to Twitter and just type in Jay White and then go to videos and see what's been posted, whether you go to Squared Circle on Reddit and type in Jay White and see some of his matches and his finishes and all that stuff, Jay White is my recommendation. He is amazing.
No, I need to take you up on that recommendation as well.
You do?
I do. I did watch Jay White versus Ospreay from
Ring of
a
Honor
certain time. No, it was a New Japan match.
Oh, okay. You saw the New Japan one.
I don't know how many times they've wrestled in New Japan.
Might only be the one. Maybe twice.
It was very good, but whichever one I watched, it was very, very good.
It was from like 2018, 2019.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was very good. But I do need to watch some more. To be fair, I need to watch some more New Japan, and I would like to talk about New Japan on here a lot more as well. So
I don't really like New Japan. It's terrible.
Not a fan.
Never heard of it.
Here. I've been here. Okay, so we did say we'll do a quick plug reference our WrestleMania watch along that we're doing in 3 weeks' time, which is going to creep up on us pretty damn quick. So we were literally just talking once we finished recording last week about it, and we're going to incorporate, because I drink beers anyway when I'm watching WrestleMania. I don't really drink that much, but I always have beers when I watch Mania. So we're going to incorporate a WrestleMania drinking game, and it's not one that we're going to just go on Google and go WrestleMania drinking game. We'll create our own, make it interesting. So anybody who wants to come along for the watch along, you can take part in it if you want or not. Like, obviously, you don't have to, but it'll be fun. It'll be good, like for us too. Anyway, it'll be a giggle. Oh, we'll also incorporate something from my own Twitch channel, which is what the watch along is going to be on anyway. My gaming stuff, I do a Bertie Bott's bean redemption, which is a Harry Potter bean, the every flavor bean. So people can redeem that against us as well. So you could see us suffer by eating vomit flavored beans on top of everything else. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah,
That's the whole thing. It's not just you're not just going to be watching two guys watching wrestling. Like we're going to incorporate some fun stuff around it. So it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time.
Very excited.
But I'm very excited the fact that we've got this as close to an hour as we have ever done before.
Little by little, we're getting better.
That's great. So you can catch me anywhere, either using the handle. Oh, nearly. That way. There we go. Bang, there, right there. This video only, audio, you're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? At Project Dits on Twitter and Instagram, Project Dits on Twitch and on YouTube. That's where I am. Come find me. Short and sweet.
There you go. I'm Anthony. I want to do a super long plug to make us get farther away from the hour. I'm Anthony. Find me here every week as co-host on the DOWPOD. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro2_ANT. I also have a solo podcast of my own called Disguised Coverage, part of the Cover One Sports Network, covering the Buffalo Bills of the NFL, breaking down other things pertaining to the NFL as well. So if the NFL or Buffalo Bills is your thing, come check me out over there. If not, keep it tuned into the DOWPOD, where I'll be here every week.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And as is always, DOWPOD tradition.
Yep.
Anthony will sign us off with a thoughtful message, as he does every single week.
Yep.
So please, it's a goodbye from me. Stay safe, everybody. I'll hand you over to Anthony, and please take note of what he says, because you will take something from it.
Thank you.
So,
wrote this down this week. A lot of notes. It's a big one. We had a lot of positive things we went over in this episode. Some not so positive things, but these outros, it's more than just a wrap up of the show and the episode. It's a culmination of the emotions and the heartstrings that Dits and I tug on with the DOWPOD. And I like to put that into thoughtful consideration when doing these outros, because there's a certain semblance of humanity in it. And that being said, again, I prepared this, so bear with me. Shouldn't take longer than 7 or 8 minutes, so just bear with me as we go through here. Sorry, let me take a... This is going to be long, and I don't want to have to take a drink when I start get going. That's good. Okay. Goodbye.